Over the past few days, there's been a massive amount of new information finally released about the Switch 2, and of course I have a lot of thoughts about it all. So I want to go over the things that I think are incredibly exciting about this new generation of Nintendo, as well as cover the many negatives that have sort of dampened the overall mood. I'm going to bounce back and forth between pros and cons, because that's the sort of whiplash I've been going through recently as new info constantly keeps coming out. Easily the best part of the Direct were all the new game announcements. Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders, and GameCube games on NSO were the main highlights for me, with a new Hyrule Warriors, third-party games like the Dusk Bloods and Street Fighter 6, and Switch 2 editions of big games like Mario Party and Forgotten Land being a few of the other notable announcements. And of course, Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 releasing at launch is just perfection. Like many of us thought would happen, Mario Kart is a launch title alongside the system in early June, and it looks incredible. The open world format is a fantastic way to shake up the series and make this new entry feel fresh, and there's just so much personality in the game from the characters to the costumes. Wall jumping and rail grinding both look like so much fun. A huge new 3D Donkey Kong game has been a dream of mine for a long while now, so to see it actually become a reality is super exciting. His new design is so expressive, and I already love the way his moveset looks and feels. It might not be a new 3D Mario game, but I truly think this outcome is the next best thing. And of course, a sequel to Kirby Air Ride is so great as well, as I love seeing Sakurai return to the Kirby series to work on something he's really passionate about. I haven't played the original myself yet, but maybe I'll get the chance to now that GameCube games are on Switch Online. I'm glad they aren't making an extra price tier for that, and I can't wait to play games like F-Zero GX, Wind Waker, Path of Radiance, and Chibi Robo on a modern Nintendo console. I don't love the drip feed approach, but I guess I'm used to it by now. And I can't go any longer without mentioning the elephant in the Nintendo discussion room at the moment, the pricing. Because as great as Mario Kart World looks, putting an $80 price tag on it is a pretty shocking move. We've all been slowly adjusting to the new $70 price point of big AAA games over the past few years, but seeing Nintendo jump all the way up to $80 with their big new launch title is a tough pill to swallow. And the reality is that there will be a lot of people who just can't afford to keep up with Nintendo anymore, which is such a shame. And now it seems like Nintendo might actually end up making the console even more expensive due to tariffs, as they delayed the pre-orders to assess the evolving market conditions. This is going to be a very expensive generation for both hardware and games, and it's clear that all of this has upset a huge portion of their fanbase. The $80 game price specifically is what most people seem really upset about, and there's even some misinformation flying around about a $90 physical price point that I'm pretty sure isn't true. I haven't seen this many people this upset at Nintendo since before the original Switch generation began, so it's definitely not a great start for the follow-up console. As for my personal thoughts on it, of course I wish it wasn't so expensive. But Mario Kart will be a game that I get a ton of hours out of, so if there were any game I would pay an extra amount for, this would be one of them. That's not to excuse it at all though, as it just doesn't feel right for them to be charging this much for it. Plus it's not even just a premium Mario Kart price, as Switch 2 edition ports like Kirby and Tears of the Kingdom appear to cost $80 as well. That's what really scares me, is that it isn't just a special price for their highest selling franchise, but instead a whole new price tier that they can choose to apply to whatever games they want. Even in terms of the pricing, it's a weird mix of highs and lows, as seeing Breath of the Wild get repackaged and sold for $70 doesn't look great. But if you already own the game, you can get the upgrade pack for free with the Switch Online expansion pack. I don't think this will apply to every Switch 2 edition game, but they definitely should have highlighted that in the Direct, as well as just provided more information on these pricing choices in general. They've been surprisingly bad at communicating key information about pricing throughout all of this, and I wish they could have been more upfront about their strategy and maybe even explain why they chose this price point. That wouldn't have fixed the issue, of course, but leaving people to discover the price on their own was not a good idea. Then there's also the discussion about the precedent this sets for the rest of the gaming industry, as other companies will likely follow Nintendo and start charging $80 for their big games as well. I'm very interested to see how Nintendo will try to combat this huge wave of negativity before the launch in June. If things only get even more expensive from here, this might end up being a pretty controversial launch. But switching back to some positives, the technical specs of the system itself are pretty much exactly what I was hoping for, and even a little better. The handheld screen being 120 FPS is something I was not expecting at all, and it's a really great modernization of the original. While it's not exactly clear just how powerful the console is, seeing Nintendo games running at 4K 60 FPS feels unreal. Since the original Switch was very similar to the Wii U in terms of power, this is the first really noticeable jump in power for a Nintendo system since 2012, and it feels so good to be able to clearly see the difference. The new mouse functionality with the Joy-Cons has me very interested, although I can't say I'm fully sold on it just yet. They never really showed how you're supposed to use this feature while sitting down on a couch in front of a TV, so I'm worried it won't be very intuitive since you need a large surface to slide the Joy-Cons across. The game they showed off that's focused on the mouse controls seems pretty cool, although it's another thing I'll have to try for myself before I know how I feel about it. The mysterious C button ended up being used for voice chat communication with your friends, which I guess is cool, but it sort of seems a bit behind the times. If the microphone really filters out background noise in the way that they claim, I could maybe see myself using this feature to chat with some friends while playing games. But that's assuming the whole process is somehow easier to use than just booting up Discord. In reality, I probably won't use this feature very much, and it pales in comparison to the beauty of Miiverse. The screen sharing feature seems pretty low quality, so I don't think I'll use that much either, and I'm definitely not interested in the Switch 2 camera. Now, I'm a fan of the Wii U, but even I think this Zoom meeting green screen stuff is a bit too gimmicky. I think I'd prefer just a straightforward video chat app opposed to this setup. There's also the concerning concept that there is now a button on your controller that you essentially have to pay to use. Speaking of money, the system itself costs $450 or at least that's what it started out as. We'll see if they end up raising the price over the next few weeks due to the tariffs. I think $450 is a decently fair price overall and doesn't upset me too much, but it seems like it might go even higher, which is concerning considering how heated the pricing discussion already is. While I'm mostly positive on the system from a technical standpoint, learning that the home menu and UI are essentially unchanged was incredibly disappointing to me. Yeah, the corners are rounded now and there's a few extra highlights and icons here and there, but this is pretty much the worst case scenario for me in terms of the menu design. I've been hoping for years now that the next console would return to the more charming and interactive designs of consoles like the 3DS and Wii U, but that isn't happening. This kind of ruined my mood on the day of the Direct, but over time I've slowly accepted it and I'm getting over it. It's a perfectly functional menu design that does its job well enough, and it seems like the developers really want to improve the eShop experience, so I'll survive. It's just really sad that the era of Nintendo consoles having their own unique sense of identity seems to be a thing of the past. Then there's the Switch 2 tour guide game thing, which doesn't look very appealing in the first place, and then they made the bizarre decision to make it a paid digital-only title instead of a pack-in. People are always insulting Wii Sports by calling it a tech demo, but this is what a true tech demo looks like. It sort of seems like some kind of sequel to Clubhouse games, but it's not nearly interesting enough to get me even close to excited. And compared to PlayStation including Astro's Playroom preloaded onto every PS5 free of charge, it definitely makes Nintendo look bad by comparison. I think there's a chance that this game ends up being better than 1-2 Switch at least, but that's not exactly a high bar. I was feeling pretty down on this whole system reveal the day it happened, but watching the Treehouse gameplay showcases in the following days really got my excitement levels back up again. These games truly look incredible, and getting to watch such smooth 4K gameplay on YouTube feels amazing after years of the Switch struggling to run so many games. Having a huge new Mario Kart at launch with a 3D platforming Donkey Kong adventure just a month later is a pretty strong lineup, and Metroid Prime 4 and Kirby Air Riders are still slated for later this year as well. I'm sort of hoping there's still a big holiday game left to reveal, as Age of Imprisonment isn't exactly exciting for me since I wasn't a big fan of Age of Calamity and have little interest in seeing Tears of the Kingdom story be expanded. But F-Zero GX looks as peak as ever, the upgraded Zelda games look very smooth, and Metroid Prime 4 looks impossibly great. This game hasn't exactly had the best marketing so far, but seeing the Treehouse gameplay reminded me of just how excited I am to play a new Metroid Prime after all these years. One last negative thing to end things off, I'm not a big fan of the new designs for the box art. The huge red banner at the top taking up so much of the cover just doesn't look very good, and the Switch 2 editions of games having a whole bunch of legal text at the bottom makes the whole thing look very cramped. The red plastic seems like it might clash visually with a lot of the box art it's next to, but then again I love the blue boxes of the Wii U, and there does seem to be art that extends onto the spines, so at least there's that. It'll be great to be able to easily tell the difference between my Switch 1 and 2 games from the side. I know people are also disappointed about the new game keycard system, and it is definitely concerning to see a new format for physical games where the data won't be stored on the cartridge, but it's too early to know how big of a problem this will be and how many games will go this route. If I had to guess, most big first-party Nintendo games will still be on the cartridge like normal, or at least I hope so. It's been a whirlwind of information and emotions in the past few days, and I'm still not 100% sure of how I feel about everything, and I know I didn't even cover everything in this video. The $80 price point and repeated bland menu design are really disappointing and frustrating, but the games themselves look terrific. It's a rocky start to the next generation, and I don't think Nintendo made all the right choices with this system and the way they revealed it. So far, it's definitely more similar to the beginnings of the 3DS and Wii U generations than the runaway successes of the Wii and the original Switch. Time will tell how much these mistakes impact the success of this console. Maybe these issues really will affect launch sales, or maybe everyone will complain but then line up for Mario Kart anyways. I have plenty of problems with the Switch 2 myself so far, but I also can't wait to roam around in an open world Mario Kart and smash stuff as DK a month later. Maybe that makes me a dumb Nintendo consumer, but they made a cow from Moo Moo Meadows a playable character. Okay, I can't help but get excited for that.